The sunset is clean behind the glass boardroom, almost too clean for what is about to happen. A senior executive sits at the long table with a pen in his hand, and every click sounds sharper than the last. 20 years of service have been reduced to a folder, a meeting invite, and faces that will not quite meet his eyes. This is where anger begins to dress itself as justice. Resentment rises first. Then the heat behind the jaw. Then the private fantasy of saying the one sentence that burns the room down. But what does a man still own when the company has taken his title, his future, and maybe his name from the door? This lesson is not about swallowing anger. It is about commanding it before it commands the room. Samurai discipline will not remove the chaos. It will teach you how to stand correctly inside it. The senior executive has been in this room 100 times. He has walked through the glass door carrying quarterly results, acquisition plans, restructuring maps, names on spreadsheets, numbers that made other people nervous. He knows where the chair sticks slightly when you pull it back. He knows which corner of the table catches the sunset first. He knows the small theater of power, the water glasses lined up too neatly, the leather folders placed at equal distance, the legal counsel sitting one seat away from human resources, the polite silence that arrives before someone says something ugly in a clean voice. But today, the room is turned against him. Not with shouting. Not with cruelty on the surface. That would almost be easier. Today the threat is measured. Professional. Scripted. The kind of threat that wears a Navy suit and says, "We appreciate your years of service," while the document waits on the table like a verdict. His pen clicks once. The sound is small, almost nothing. Plastic against metal. A tiny mechanical snap under his thumb. But in the silence of that glass boardroom, it lands like a gavel. 20 years. That is what the mind repeats first. 20 years of early flights, missed dinners, red-eye emails, board packages read in hotel rooms, birthdays cut short by emergency calls, weekends sacrificed to protect the company's image while everyone else slept. 20 years of swallowing pressure so other people could call it leadership. 20 years of being the calm one when the numbers were bad, when clients threatened to leave, when the market shifted, when younger executives panicked behind closed doors. And now the same institution speaks to him as if he is a liability to be managed. That is where resentment finds its opening. Resentment does not always arrive as rage. Sometimes it arrives as accounting. It begins listing what you gave. It brings receipts. It says, "Remember the merger you saved. Remember the CEO who thanked you in private but forgot you in public. Remember the person sitting across from you, the one who once asked for your help and now cannot hold your eyes." Resentment sounds reasonable because it uses facts. It builds a case. It wants the room to confess. Then explosive anger comes behind it, less patient, less elegant. His jaw tightens. The pen clicks again. His hand is still on the table, but the pressure in his thumb has changed. The tendons stand out along the back of his hand. He feels heat climbing the neck, that humiliating heat that makes a controlled man aware of his own body. He hears the HR representative continue reading from the prepared language, and every polished phrase feels like an insult. Transition package. Role elimination. Strategic realignment. Confidentiality obligations. Words designed to remove blood from the moment. A dangerous thing happens when a person feels erased. The ego tries to prove existence by making impact. It does not want clarity. It wants evidence that it still matters. It wants a reaction big enough to force the room to remember him. That is the trap. In P1.C2, the battlefield is not a burning street or a physical fight. It is power, judgment, law, hierarchy, controlled language, and the unbearable feeling that someone else has taken the steering wheel of your life. The pressure is legal, social, financial, emotional. And because the room is quiet, the anger has nowhere obvious to go. It turns inward, compresses, and looks for the weakest door. The weakest door is usually the mouth. One sentence can become a match. One accusation can turn a painful exit into a reputation that follows him. One uncontrolled moment can give the room permission to reduce 20 years of service to 30 seconds of behavior. That is the cruelty of these moments. The people around the table may forget the years, but they will remember the outburst. This is why Fudoshin matters. Fudoshin is not a numb face. It is not pretending the wound is not real. It is the refusal to let the wound choose your posture, your timing, your words, and your legacy. The feeling can rise. The heat can come. The hand can tremble slightly around the pen. But command means the emotion does not get promoted to chairman of the room. Look at the external scene. A glass wall. Sunset. Clear sky. A city below that keeps moving as if nothing sacred is being taken from a man. Inside the room, A few people keep their eyes on documents because documents are safer than faces. The executive's chair sits at the long side of the table, not the head. That detail is not accidental. Power has already been rearranged before he arrived. The meeting was designed to make him receive, not lead. Now look inside. His mind wants to widen the battle until it includes everything. His mortgage. His age. His reputation. The younger executives waiting for his office. The LinkedIn announcement written in careful language. The question his spouse may ask when he walks through the door. The private shame of being escorted out of a building where he once had a badge that opened every floor. The mind does this under threat. It does not stay in the boardroom. It drags the entire future into one chair. It turns a layoff meeting into a trial of identity. Suddenly he is not a senior executive facing a brutal transition. He is a man being told his entire life meant less than he believed. That thought is fuel. And if he follows it, he will speak from the most injured part of himself. He might lean forward. He might name names. He might say what everyone knows but no one says. He might look at the legal counsel and laugh. He might call the language cowardly. He might remind the room exactly who carried the company when others failed. Some of it may even be true. But truth delivered without command can still become self-damage. This is the confrontation beneath the confrontation. The company is not the only opponent. The other opponent is the part of him that wants to turn pain into spectacle. The part that says, if they are going to take something from me, I will make them feel it. The part that mistakes eruption for dignity. There is a version of him that loses the room. In that version, the pen becomes a weapon of sound. Click. 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 His breathing shortens. He interrupts before the sentence is finished. His voice grows sharper, then louder. He does not notice the counsel taking notes. He does not notice the HR representative becoming careful. He does not notice that every person in the room has stopped seeing the 20-year servant of the company and started seeing a liability. The ego feels alive for a minute. Then the room closes around him. There is another version. In that version, the anger still rises. The resentment still brings its evidence. The body still wants to lunge through language. But he does one thing first, he stops giving the first impulse authority. He lets the pen rest flat against the table. He feels the hard edge of it under his palm. He takes one breath without performing calm for anyone. He allows a pause long enough to separate what happened from what he is about to do. That pause is not weakness. In a boardroom, the pause is a blade kept in its sheath. The people across from him may think they control the meeting because they control the documents. They may control the severance terms, the calendar invite, the official announcement, the security protocol, the language that will go into the file. But they do not control his next sentence unless he hands it to them. That is boardroom execution. Not execution as destruction. Execution as precision under pressure. The disciplined man does not confuse volume with strength. He understands that when power moves against you, posture becomes testimony. Tone becomes evidence. Silence becomes a form of command. The way you place a pen on a table can reveal whether you are being dragged by resentment or governed by something deeper. He can ask for the terms to be repeated. He can request time to review the documents. He can say, calmly, I need a moment before I respond. He can look at each person in the room without begging them to feel guilty. He can refuse to perform gratitude he does not feel, and still refuse to become small. That is the hard line, no false softness, no explosive surrender. Fudoshin does not ask him to approve of betrayal. It asks him not to betray himself in response. It tells him that anger may enter the room, but it must stand behind command. Resentment may speak its evidence, but it must not write the script. The ego may demand a dramatic exit, but dignity understands cameras are not required for a moment to matter. The pen clicks one more time. Now he hears it differently. At first, it was the sound of pressure leaking through his hand. Then it became the sound of resentment counting offenses. But it can become something else. A signal. A bell. A warning that the old impulse is near and the next second matters. Every controlled life has a sound like that. A pen clicking. A phone buzzing. A door closing. A name being left out of a meeting. A sentence spoken in a tone that makes the chest tighten. The untrained person reacts to the sound. The disciplined person returns through it. In that glass boardroom, under a clear sunset, facing the end of 20 years, the senior executive is not being asked to feel nothing. He is being asked to decide who will hold authority inside him when the room takes everything it can reach. Discipline does not begin after you feel calm. It begins in the first second you realize you are about to lose command. For the senior executive in the glass boardroom, That second is almost invisible. It is not dramatic. No one else may notice it. The HR representative is still reading. The legal counsel is still looking at the document. The sunset is still clean behind the glass, laying gold across the polished table. But inside his hand, the pen is no longer just a pen. It has become the place where his anger is gathering. Click. That is the first bell. The first practice is to stop the automatic motion. Not the anger. Not the resentment. Not the shock of being told that 20 years can be folded into a packet and slid across a table. Those things may already be there. But the motion, the clicking, the leaning forward, the breath shortening, the sentence forming too fast, that can be stopped. He lets the pen rest. Flat. One small object on one long table. No sermon. No performance. Just the smallest possible refusal to be dragged. The hand wants to keep moving because the mind wants release. The thumb wants another click because the body is looking for somewhere to put the force. But he places the pen down as if placing a boundary between impulse and action. He does not throw it. He does not grip it until the knuckles whiten. He does not use it to stab the air while he speaks. He lets it rest. That is action 1, stop the leak before it becomes a flood. The second practice is to name the shadow without obeying it. Not out loud. Not for the room. He does it where no one can use it against him. Resentment. Anger. The words are plain. They do not excuse him. They do not condemn him. They simply put a name on the force moving through the body. When an emotion is unnamed, it wears the mask of truth. It says, I am not anger, I am justice. I am not resentment, I am memory. I am not wounded pride, I am righteous clarity. Naming it cuts the mask. He does not say, I am fine. That would be a lie, and lies make weak ground. He does not say, they deserve this. That hands the steering wheel to the wound. He says inwardly, with no drama, this is resentment. This is anger. It is present. It is not in command. That is action 2, identify the force before it becomes your voice. The third practice is to anchor the body in the boardroom, not in the imagined future. Because the mind has already left the room. It is in the parking garage. It is in the elevator ride down. It is in the kitchen at home, explaining what happened. It is 6 months ahead, imagining a younger executive sitting in his office. It is on a job site, a headline, a rumor, a conversation he has not had yet. The mind under threat becomes a projector. It throws scenes onto the wall and then suffers as if they are already real. So he brings the body back. He feels both feet under the table. He presses the soles of his shoes into the floor, not hard enough to be seen, just enough to remember weight. He notices the chair beneath him. He notices the edge of the table near his wrist. He notices the pen lying still, no longer clicking. He lets his eyes settle on the document without rushing to read every line. The sunset is real. The table is real. The pen is real. The next sentence is real. The entire rest of his life is not in this room yet. That is action 3, return from the future to the surface beneath your feet. The fourth practice is to lengthen the pause before speech. In a boardroom, speed can be a trap. The person who speaks fastest often reveals the most. The injured ego wants to answer before the sentence has landed. It wants to interrupt, correct, accuse, expose, dominate. It mistakes immediacy for strength. But command has a different rhythm. He waits until the HR representative finishes the sentence. Not because the sentence is kind. Not because the language deserves respect. But because interrupting would make his pain easier to dismiss. He allows silence to form after the last word. He does not rush to fill it. He takes one breath through the nose, slow enough that his chest does not jump. He lets the exhale leave quietly. Then, if he must speak, he begins with control. I need a moment. 4 words. No apology. No explosion. No performance of gratitude. Just enough language to reclaim the pace. That is action 4, use the pause as a gate. The fifth practice is to shrink the battle. This is where most people lose command. They try to fight 20 years in 1 minute. They try to defend a whole identity in 1 sentence. They try to answer betrayal, fear, shame, reputation, money, loyalty, and the future all at once. No human nervous system speaks well from that battlefield. So he makes the battle smaller. Not because the situation is small. It is not. A layoff after 20 years is not small. Losing a role that shaped your days, your status, your rhythm, your name in the building, that is not small. But discipline understands that a large wound still requires the next right action, not 1,000 imagined reactions. The next right action may be to ask for the document to be placed in front of him. The next right action may be to say, "I will review this carefully before I respond." The next right action may be to ask what happens after this meeting. The next right action may be to write down a date, a contact name, a follow-up step. The next right action may be to remain silent while the anger burns hot enough to tempt him into a sentence he cannot retrieve. He does not need to solve the company. He does not need to win the moral trial. He does not need to make them understand 20 years in one speech. He needs to protect the next minute. That is action 5, reduce the war to one clean movement. The 6th practice is to choose language that keeps dignity intact. Control does not mean passive. Calm does not mean obedient. There is a difference between being composed and being erased. So his words must be simple enough to survive pressure. I hear what you're saying. I'm not prepared to respond fully in this moment. I will review the terms. I want the record to reflect that I disagree with how this is being handled. I will continue this conversation through the proper channel. These are not magic words. They do not make the pain fair. They do not reverse the decision. They do something more immediate, they prevent resentment from using his mouth to destroy his position. The tone matters as much as the content. Low. Clear. Unrushed. No sarcasm. Sarcasm is anger trying to wear a suit. No insults. Insults give the room a simpler story than the truth. No threats. Threats may feel powerful for 5 seconds and expensive for much longer. He speaks as a man who refuses to decorate his wound for their convenience. That is action 6, let your words be narrow enough for honor to pass through. The 7th practice is to turn the pen into a ritual. At the beginning of the meeting, the pen was a symptom. Click, 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 the anger leaking out through plastic and metal. But a disciplined person can take the same object and give it a higher duty. He picks it up only when he needs to write. He writes slowly. Not because he is calm, but because he is training calm into the hand. Date. Name. Phrase. Next step. He places the pen down between each note. The repetition becomes instruction. Pick up. Write. Place down. Breathe. Listen. Pick up. Write. Place down. Breathe. Listen. The body learns through rhythm before the mind believes in peace. This is modern shugyo. Not punishment. Not theatrical suffering. Intelligent hardship. A ritual performed while the room remains cold, while the sky remains clear, while the people across the table continue speaking in careful language. He trains without announcing that he is training. And every time the pen rests on the table instead of clicking under pressure, the old impulse loses a little authority. This is how command is rebuilt. Not in a monastery. Not in a movie. Not after life becomes fair. Here. In the glass boardroom. At sunset. With a document on the table, resentment in the chest, anger behind the jaw, and a pen waiting to become either a leak or a discipline. The room may still have power over the terms. It does not have to have power over his execution. The room does not become kind. That is important. No one suddenly understands the weight of 20 years. No one stands up, apologizes, and admits that the language in the folder is too clean for the life it is cutting through. The legal counsel still watches the margins. The HR representative still keeps the same careful tone. The sunset still pours through the glass like nothing has happened. But the senior executive changes the temperature inside himself. At the beginning, the pen was noise. A small panic hidden inside a professional gesture. Click. 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 The sound of pressure looking for a crack. Now the pen lies flat on the table. He does not need to squeeze it. He does not need to announce control. He does not need to prove that he is above the pain. His anger is still there, but it has been moved out of the command chair. His resentment is still present, but it is no longer allowed to write the next sentence. That is the first sign of transformation. Not peace. Command. He looks at the document again. The words are still cold. Role eliminated. Transition. Effective date. He can feel the insult beneath the polish, and he does not pretend otherwise. A disciplined man does not have to call a wound a blessing. He does not have to smile for people who have prepared his exit like a procedure. But he also refuses to give them the easiest version of him. The explosive version would be simple. It would give the room a story they could understand. He was angry. He lost control. We handled it professionally. That story would be convenient. It would make his 20 years smaller than his final minute. So he does not hand them that story. He lets the silence stretch. Not awkwardly. Not as a tactic. As ownership. Then he speaks. I will review the documents before I respond in detail. His voice is lower than he expected. Not soft. Not defeated. Low. Measured. The kind of voice that makes people listen because it is not trying to dominate the air. Someone across the table nods too quickly. Someone else writes something down. He sees it now, how much of the room is built on procedure, how little of it knows what to do with a man who will not collapse and will not explode. That is power returning in a form they did not prepare for. He asks for the timeline. He asks who will be the point of contact. He asks what will be communicated and when. Each question is narrow. Each question keeps him inside the next right action. He does not prosecute the entire past. He does not try to force guilt into their faces. He does not beg the room to validate his sacrifice. He knows, with a pain that feels almost physical, that some rooms will take your service and still refuse to honor it properly. So you honor it yourself by how you leave. The glass boardroom begins to feel different. The walls are still transparent, but he no longer feels exposed in the same way. The city below is still moving, but it no longer feels like an insult. The clear sky outside no longer mocks him with its calm. It becomes a mirror. Not gentle. Just clean. The meeting continues. He hears the pen again, but this time it is not clicking. It moves across the paper in short, deliberate strokes. A date. A name. A phrase he once reviewed. The sound is quieter now, but stronger. Ink against paper. A tool doing only what it is meant to do. Not leaking anger. Not carrying resentment. Not begging to be noticed. The anchor has changed because the hand holding it has changed. This is what real transformation looks like in modern life. It rarely feels like victory. It often feels like restraint with a pulse still pounding underneath it. It feels like sitting in a room where you have every reason to become reckless, and choosing instead to become exact. The world outside may not reward that immediately. There may be no applause in the elevator. No perfect sentence waiting in the parking garage. No sudden justice when he gets home and takes off the suit that still smells faintly like the boardroom. He may still have to face the questions, the calls, the silence after sending a message he never wanted to send. But something essential has been protected. The company can remove his role. It cannot define his final posture. The company can decide the terms of separation. It cannot decide whether resentment becomes his master. The company can make him leave the building. It cannot make him leave himself behind. That is Fudoshin under fluorescent lights and corporate glass. Not ancient. Not theatrical. Not a man pretending he has no feelings. A man with anger in his chest and command in his hands. A man who understands that the most dangerous moment is not when power moves against you. It is when pain asks for permission to use your character as fuel. He gathers the papers. Slowly. He places the pen beside them. There is no grand speech. He does not need one. The room expected either cooperation or eruption. He gives them something harder to categorize, composure with a spine. As he stands, the chair makes the same small sound it has made 100 times before. But now it belongs to a different moment. He is not walking out as the man who was reduced by the meeting. He is walking out as the man who refused to let the meeting reduce him. At the door, he pauses once. Not for drama. For alignment. His hand rests on the handle. His breath settles. Behind him, the table remains polished, the documents remain official, and the pen remains still. At the beginning, the clicking pen revealed the fracture. In the middle, the resting pen became the boundary. Now, at the end, the still pen becomes the record. Pressure came, anger rose, resentment argued, and command held. He opens the door. The hallway is quiet. And for the first time since the meeting began, the silence does not feel like judgment. It feels like space. A man does not always get to choose how a chapter ends. But he can choose what part of himself signs the final page. Your boardroom may not have glass walls. It may be a kitchen table, a hospital hallway, a court date, a performance review, a late night email, or a quiet conversation where someone speaks to you as if your years did not count. But you will know the sound. The pen clicking. The jaw tightening. The sentence forming too fast. That is the moment to return. Not to become cold. Not to pretend the wound is noble. To place the pen down, feel your feet, shrink the battle, and protect the next sentence from the worst part of your pain. If this message met you in a hard season, carry it with restraint. Subscribe only if you are training to become the kind of person pressure cannot easily command. Samurai discipline is not about becoming emotionless. It is about becoming trustworthy under pressure.